So we're tentatively around 70 days from the 2020 NBA draft. And this year's class highlighted by LaMelo Ball, Obi Toppin, Anthony Edwards. With the league's plans for a restart, the bottom 8 teams have their odds set. The rest will be decided with seeding games upon a return to the court. So let's take a look at Gary Parrish's latest top 10. Remember, this is the second year of that new lottery format to help flatten the odds of getting the top picks. And last year we saw the Pelicans, Grizzlies, Lakers all jump into the top 4. And he still has LaMelo Ball there at number 1. All right, so let's bring in the co-host of the Eye on College Basketball Pod and our industry insider, Gary Parrish. And Gary, really, no change at number 1 and no change at 2, 3, and 4. Why so?
Simply put, I think at the top, as I've explained before, of any draft, the guy who should be selected is the player that has the most potential to be a multi-year future all-star. In my opinion, and reasonable people can disagree on this, but in my opinion, that guy is LaMelo Ball. He's just developed into a terrific playmaker, somebody who can dribble, pass, and shoot. Incredible size for his position. Once upon a time, known largely as LeVar's son, Lonzo's little brother, but now it looks like he is going to be the best basketball player from that family. And if he goes on to, again, be a multi-year all-star, that won't surprise me a bit. He's a terrific prospect.
All right, and as we've learned before, you make these selections not based on what the prior roster is, meaning if the Splash Brothers are already there, it doesn't matter. You like LaMelo there in that situation. What I did find interesting was who was at number 5. The big man from USC, ONYEKA OKONGWU, moving up right there. And he's right behind James Wiseman there, Gary. So is there room for him to eventually leapfrog the former Memphis star?
Possibly. I wouldn't predict it, but ONYEKA has a few things going in his favor, most notably that he plays multiple positions, or at least can play multiple positions. You know, James Wiseman likes to refer to himself as a unicorn. The truth is, he's a center. There's not really anything that unique about him. He's a center and only a center, and this is the worst time in the history of professional basketball to be a center and only a center, because traditional bigs get played off the court all the time. The Houston Rockets don't even use one. Now, that is not to say that James Wiseman can't and won't be terrific. I like him a lot. He's incredibly talented, but if a front office decided they would rather have somebody select a front court player with a little more versatility, then ONYEKA OKONGWU would fit that label perfectly. He's only about 6'9", so maybe that's a bit of a disadvantage, but incredible offensive rebounder, can switch onto smaller players in pick and roll situations if he's asked to, and bigs are consistently asked to do that right now. He is a guy who was only a borderline top 25 prospect coming out of high school, but very quickly at USC developed into their best player, one of the best bigs in the country, and now looks like a guaranteed top 10 pick. And yeah, I could see him in the top 5, and yes, I could see him going before Wiseman, depending on who was picking where.
All right, first team all Pac-12 for, again, the man out of Troy. Then there's Cole Anthony dropping out of your top 10. Gary, how much of this had to do with his injury at UNC?
That injury certainly didn't help. We didn't see much of him, and when we saw him, if we're being honest, he was not great for a bad team. Some of that had to do, let's be fair, with the personnel around him. That was not a traditional or typical North Carolina roster, but still Cole was a mostly inefficient player who, you know, would go through incredible streaks of scoring, but then also miss shot after shot after shot. He's a little limited around the rim, like isn't a great finisher. That's something he can obviously improve on, but it is something that he has to improve on. And more when you talk to NBA people, they wonder, like, just does he impact winning? Everybody recognizes the talent, and that's why he's somebody who will still be a lottery pick despite a disappointing and injury-filled freshman season. But this is somebody who once was in the conversation to be the #1 overall pick in the 2020 NBA draft, and now there's just no chance he's going to sniff that. If he goes in the top 10, that would be a win on draft night for Cole Anthony at this point.
Yeah, you talked about it at one point being talked about in the conversation, a top overall pick, and he continues to slide. How about a guy, though, another riser here into the top 10, and that's Saddiq Bey out of Villanova. You've had right around, 13, essentially in the top 15 there, Gary. What went into the thought process here latest to get him into the top 10 conversation?
Again, just conversations with NBA personnel. They really love him. I mean, he does everything you want a modern wing to do in today's NBA. He's 6'8". He can switch, guard multiple positions. Shot 45% from three-point range in his sophomore and final season at Villanova. You know, he was on the fence in recent months about whether to return to college or remain in the NBA draft. Recently, publicly acknowledged he is going to remain in the NBA draft. And I can just tell you, NBA front offices are excited about that, because when you've got a 6'8" wing who can play multiple positions, really shoot it from three-point range, can really pass it as well, and comes from a program like Villanova, played for a future Hall of Fame coach like Jay Wright, Siddiq Bey is somebody who probably wasn't talked about in this way at all a year ago, but with a tremendous second season in college, he has elevated himself to a guaranteed lottery pick, in my opinion.
And a guy like OKONGWU, we're talking about an all-conference player in the Big East. Our thanks to Gary Parrish joining us here on HQ. Gary, certainly appreciate it. Catch him on College Basketball Pod with our guy Matt Norlander. One of their latest pods talking about Zion Williamson and the ex-agent hell-bent on trying to expose the former Duke star and Nike. The guys talk about that. Spend the first half of the podcast discussing about that particular thing. Download, subscribe, rate, and review. 5 stars today.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.